understand that you want to be a leader, but in my eyes, you always seem to follow so easily. Well, I don't like following people, but I like helping people. I'm not a very frail, easily damaged person. Well, you can't be. Or else you can't run, because you can't be easily damaged if you're a council member. I'm not. Good. Mike isn't particularly worried that I'm going to cause much of a stir, much of a fight. If I have the chance to be in a leadership position, I'll take it. I think he should be pretty worried.
Alrighty, hey guys, what's going on? This is Eric here, and today I'm back with a brand new Kid Nation interview. We got Guylan here joining us from Facebook. Really glad to have you here, Guylan. You know, Guylan was a leader of the Red Team, pretty notable guy and everything. So, Guylan, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, dude, pleasure's mine. So, just starting off, how did you get cast onto the show?
Well, so actually, I was homeschooled from basically preschool to 7th grade. And one of the homeschool groups I was involved a mailing group, like an email group. And through that email group came just basically an open casting call for this reality show on CBS that started a little bit differently than what it ended up being as Kid Nation. We were told it was going to be like in Nevada, in a ghost town, and the structure of the show, we weren't really told very much about it, but it was very interesting. It was an interesting concept. It was going to be 40 kids trying to be basically modern pioneers in this abandoned town, which in the end is basically what it ended up being. And we responded to the email. There was a process. I got this really long packet, which was basically like this Mondo level of homework.
Yeah.
Along with a phone call from a casting agent, which both went well. And eventually they flew us out, me and my mother, they flew me out to the Doubletree Hotel in Santa Monica, California. And we stayed there for a few days with, I think the numbers were like 13,000 kids initially entered, and then there were 100 and something that actually ended up getting flown out to the Doubletree. They whittled that down to 60 people, and then the rest of us underwent like physicals, psych evals, just general questionnaires just to figure out our personality, like if we would be interesting or anything to have on or anything like that. It was like, not to say it was an intense process. We were basically on vacation at a pretty sweet hotel. It was like school in a hotel for a few days. It was kind of fun and it was interesting. But it was it was a lot of information that they're trying to get out of you to see if you'll be compatible or exciting to be on the show.
Sure. Something that is pretty interesting on that note, maybe this was part of the homework, maybe it wasn't, but there was a part where there's like certain profiles for every kid that was on the show on the CBS website. Yeah. So, and something that was pretty interesting with like the Kid Nation community on Discord, when I announced the interview, a lot of people were curious because one of the big things in your character profile was that you said you're a big fan of Fidel Castro as your leader. Where did that sort of come from, and do you still have that belief?
Well, you're trying to get me in trouble in today's climate, aren't you?
That's what people are asking, man.
No, that's totally fair.
Yeah.
That's totally. I actually got a lot of blowback from that. As an 11-year-old child,
Wow.
I was getting like hate mail and like people on chat groups talking about how I had a commie mommy and that she needed to beat me better.
Wow.
No, people can be very interesting. Hey, everybody's entitled to their point of view, I guess. No, my family on one side, my great grandfather and great grandmother, actually, they're from Cuba directly. They immigrated shortly before the Cuban Revolution, and it was, the teaching about a certain type of a certain viewpoint of the history from there. Stuff that people were actually able to see, and especially considering my family did leave, but not in the way that some other people were leaving at that time, and not for the same reasons, just because it wasn't so much idealistic as just, well, this is becoming unsafe and I want my family to stay safe.
Right.
it ended up being something that my mom and I and my grandparents tried to cover and tried to have a comprehensive understanding of the history that led to a lot of the feelings, interpretations, and narratives from both the American-centric history of the Cuban Revolution and the Cuban-centric history. And obviously, as an adult now, I have a more complex understanding of the history than I did when I was 11, and making some of these statements. There was definitely there's a level of rose-tinted glasses that gets removed when you learn about a level of violence that happens in really any sort of powerful regime.
Right.
So I'm not. Yeah, sorry.
Oh no, you can keep going if you had.
I'm just so I'm not sure to say. I don't know that I would necessarily defend that statement as saying that I idealize Castro as a leader.
Yeah.
I definitely respect aspects of his leadership, specifically during the revolution.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't realize this would be like a heavy. Like,
no. Sorry, I gotta be comprehensive.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't want to see people ripping this apart too hard on the internet in a couple of weeks.
Exactly, and I guess I'm really surprised because like my entire run through, I've seen the show like 3 times and everything, but it wasn't until like I started becoming active in the community that I'd even known that you liked Fidel Castro at the time. Like I'm surprised that became as big of a thing as it was.
It was, especially at that period of time, there was more. I forget why exactly it was at that period, but there was more focus on either imposing more restrictions or lightening restrictions with Cuba, and so it was kind of in the news and it was a topic. So I'm not sure if that was part of why they had asked the question. But
okay, yeah. To be honest, like. Politics aside and everything, when I first heard that you like Fidel Castro, like to be honest, like kind of impressed in a way, not be necessarily supporting his policies or anything, but I feel like during that show's runtime, the only world leader you'd hear and it get jammed into your head was George Bush. Honestly, like I feel like he's the only people like the kids knew at the time. So.
Well, I think Taylor had a great quote of there's no President Bush here.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that and many more, for sure. But yeah, definitely, thanks for the insight on that. So, when you become, like, the town council leader, you're very eager to, first, let's get into, like, why you became the council leader to begin with, like, why you chose to challenge Mike.
Mike was a great guy, actually. So Mike was just a really cool person, very interesting, really talented actually, and he was a friend, at least on the show. Kept in a level of contact for a while afterwards, of mine and Jared's as well. But he just at the time it ended up feeling like he was not a super effectual leader. Especially when compared to like it's kind of hard to say. It was difficult at the time, not being a leader, to understand that part of why it was difficult for the leaders to actually lead well was because of the limitations of the structure of the show, right? So we had gone in there basically being told that we were going to have a lot of control, or maybe not necessarily being specifically told, but it being implied that we were going to have a lot of control over trying to build this and make this work. It seemed maybe a little bit more freeform than it ended up being, where it really was quite structured. In that there was like a 3-day schedule, essentially, where we had like Showdown, reading from the journal, and then a town hall meeting. So I ended up running because I didn't feel that our red district people were actually like, I didn't see what he was doing. I didn't understand the point of having leaders that weren't just going to like listen and then comprehensive somehow vie to the authority that be for our interests. So I figured, I mean, hey, I'm loud, I'm annoying if I want to be, so I can just be loud, annoying, promise people what they want, and then make sure that they get it. You know?
Yeah.
That's a little harder than than it sounds on paper. So, but yeah, it was because it didn't feel like we were necessarily being heard in the best way.
Okay.
I didn't see the changes that were being made. So.
Right. And how did you feel about, I feel like Mike was pretty, maybe he even felt like a little bit hurt that you tried to challenge him. Like, did he ever, like, have discussions with you about, like, how you were running and stuff?
So he actually, this actually got caught on camera, too.
Yeah.
It was outside of one of the stores. There was, I forget whose poster. I think there was someone's poster in the background. And he did. He basically sat me down and was kind of like, "What's going on with that?" I didn't realize that he would be offended. To be honest, it had never really occurred to me because this was all like we were friends, but it's a show, I mean, it's a show, but it's also an experience. So I figured it's all kind of just business, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like not like business because it's a show, whatever. But like, I mean, hey, maybe you get to take a rest, I'll see, because at the end of the day, it's a vote, so if people don't like me, then I just don't win, so it's not that much of a problem, It didn't quite end up working out like that, and I ended up feeling a little bit bad, actually, at the end of there.
Wow.
But he, until I ended up, during the episode, I ended up getting to see, like, watching it back when it actually aired, they did an interview with him where he talked about how he had always just sort of perceived me as a follower and, like, never really,
yes, I remember that.
And he seemed, like, so flabbergasted by this, where at that point I felt a little bit better for running against him, right?
Right.
But, yeah, I do. He did seem a little hurt, and that was not in any way my intention. Like I said, it was just I didn't see the effectiveness. I thought I might be able to bring more to the table. I wasn't necessarily correct. I don't feel like I was necessarily as wrong as some people may have felt at the time that I was, but yeah, it wasn't meant to be malicious or hurtful at all. I did end up feeling actually kind of bad when I found out that did bother him.
Right, yeah, I can't imagine it'd be any easier because, I mean, you smoked him in that election. That was probably...
Well, yeah, that wasn't really expected either. Yeah.
The 9-1, that was crazy. I think maybe Mike needed, though. I feel like it humbled him down or something to some degree.
Yeah, I don't necessarily so at the time I think I felt more strongly that way. In hindsight, I think there was. In hindsight, I don't think he was as bad as that vote made him seem. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
Again, after going through the process, after having like my couple of Kid Nation weeks as a leader, it becomes clear to you that although you have a great deal of power over the day-to-day, like I'm the town leader, this needs to happen, I need you to do this job kind of thing. The format of the show makes it very difficult to institute any actual like structural change. You know what I mean? That's actually, if I can digress for a second, that was best exemplified by the episode where we had to trade somebody from our district. Right. And I made a very, very controversial decision that at the time I didn't really see as such a controversial decision. And in hindsight, I understand socially why it was. At the time, it made sense because Nathan, the person that I chose to bring onto our team, was literally, he was like a machine. And I mean that in a very good way. Like he, not super social, but whatever. That's, everybody has their own way. But he just worked. He was a monster. He just never stopped working. All he wanted to do was work. And then when he finished working, he found something else to do more work.
Right.
And we needed a little bit of that on Red Team. Not that we were lazy, not to say that at all. I did get blamed for saying that I may have said some derivative of that at the time.
Yeah.
Be fair. But we definitely were not like top of the lazy chain, or anything. There was no one team that was like that we had some people from each one,
Right.
But to just get that, somebody who would make sure like the clothes were always clean, that's kind of a big deal when your clothes are never clean, That's like we didn't pick the machine washers, we picked the hand washers, so yeah, that ended up getting so much backlash from the people in the actual town, and that ended up with me becoming like such a terrible, like almost Gestapo-ish leader, like, oh, I'm the guy who brings in random people that people don't want to have to hang out with, kind of thing. Like, I don't know, it wasn't really about that. We were just trying to be efficient, but
right.
Yeah. So it's definitely a lot harder to be a good leader once you're actually there,
I agree. I mean, I did kind of feel bad for you because I totally understand like your methodology in bringing in Nathan, and also like you also got rid of Emily, probably not because like you hated her or anything, but because she didn't like to be around you guys in general. So I thought maybe they would have like been supportive of that decision at least, but
they were actually. So
okay.
honestly, I hadn't touched on that because it's a little bit just mean. Emily was difficult to get along with, and I'm sure she's fine. I haven't kept in contact, but at the time, she was a little bit rough to get along with, especially for some of the other people in our district. And that was high on the agenda of just like, well, let's just, that's. And it did seem like she got along better in blue.
Right. I agree. Yeah.
So that part of the decision went over very well. It really just seemed like there was some sort of not. Well, I think I made and I can't remember the exact context of this, but I think I made a comment that came off as me saying that we needed Nathan to work hard because the rest of us weren't working hard enough, and that got taken very poorly. Which, to be fair, that's my delivery. That's not his fault. So foot and mouth a little bit.
In the end, was that trade something that you regret, or do you just wish you were handled better?
No, I think I probably wish I had been a little better at the politicky part of the explaining of why that trade happened.
Yeah.
Because I genuinely think that would have gone off a lot better. I think I came off as a dick, and I think I came off as somebody who was very much being very down on the district I was supposed to be representing. And that was my failing, not my district's. So.
Okay. Definitely. One big scene that happens during this, we only see like a small blurb of it, but pretty much all the red team, like a lot of the bigger like red guys are yelling at you. I think like Markel, Jared, I think Mike, they're all there in your bunk, and then Jared's like, "You better lock your cell door tonight," Yeah.
As I recall, that was the fallout from me having Nathan join the team. And again, I think it was because I had. So, and I don't think I said it, again from what I remember. I didn't say it in as negative of a way as this picture of him like gonna kill me while I'm locking myself in a jail cell sounds. But it definitely came off as me being very critical of the district. And it wasn't the only time that happened. My delivery is not always great. I can be excessively blunt, and so
Yeah.
I've been told. Sophia actually cursed me out on the show,
right,
on camera at one point. So
I was meaning to ask you about that.
Instance.
Yes, so that was blurred out. What did she actually say to you?
Well, she told me to go fuck myself. Yeah.
Okay. So
she was being good. If I recall correctly, she actually asked the producers like if it was okay for her to say it first, and then like went for it anyway. And and yeah. I kind of earned that. Again, what
Yeah.
I was making some point about how, like, if we had tried better together, or if we had all worked a little bit harder, we would have actually gotten the prize. It was something about togetherness, and it did not come out that way at all.
Okay.
And it came out in a very, like, fuck everybody, you're all terrible, I did nothing wrong. That was not what I meant to be saying, but I deserved it. I deserved that one.
Okay, that's interesting. So actually, like, we as a community do know she did say, like, go fuck yourself. But what's after that is a little bit up for contention. I don't know if you remember it, but it's either go fuck yourself, Guylan, or some people think that, or it's been sort of spread on the internet that she calls you Guylan.
No. It was just my name. It was just my name.
Okay. I just wanted to get that straightened out.
That's definitely a rib that I've been called before, plenty. But yeah, no, but that she was not that way. She was very frustrated, but she was not the type to be that, like, that type.
Right. I just had to ask for clarification on that point.
Yeah. No.
Okay. In regards to when you're a leader, probably the thing that I give you the most credit for is you got DK to stay when he wanted to leave, but we don't actually really get to see that much about what you guys were talking about. And I sort of maybe thought that you mentioned that there could be like a gold star involved if he stayed. Do you really remember what he said to you? I mean, what you said to him that got him to stay?
He was having a really hard time. If you remember, he got injured in the first episode, and he had to be kind of carried on the wagons. There was, I forget exactly what it was, but there was something that had happened to his knees, basically, that was causing him a lot of pain. I do believe I don't think I, like, promised him a gold star, but I believe that did come up in like a just, I mean, that's a pretty compelling reason to stay. Like, we got some time left, and there's plenty of them to be given, especially because he was somebody who he always tried to do his best. And especially considering the fact that he was hurt so early on in the show, and just he never stopped being a good guy. He never stopped just trying to work hard and do good. So if I recall correctly, I believe you are correct. I implied that there may be some, that type of work ethic is one of those things that should be rewarded. I believe I suggested him a couple of times when we were doing our gold star nominations, essentially.
Sure.
I can't remember. I'm totally honest.
Right. How did you feel like you got along with, like, the rest of the council, like Anjay and Zach and Laurel?
They were really cool. I mean, NJ and Laurel, obviously, they were sort of the old guard. They had been there first, so they knew a little bit more coming in. So starting out, Zach and I obviously were trying to get our bearings and, like, figure out exactly how much power we have, I guess, or like how much the council actually does. NJ was just super smart, so he was always just cool to talk to. But again, being so smart, it was a little intimidating sometimes, I guess.
Yeah.
Laurel was always, like, the perfect council member, right up until the point when she was a little too much the perfect council member, and then people got a little bit sick of it, and then they elected Michael. Zach and I went in as sort of like this power duo, like, we had, like, a plan, and to his credit, he was very just motivated and kick ass and ready to go with just about everything. And I started out feeling very much that way. And then I took a couple of lumps from my district over a few decisions, and eventually I got a little bit, I was pretty much just done with that. Right. So our power dynamics sort of waned there towards the middle end.
Exactly. I think the first instance of that I really noticed, was when you guys had, like, to haul the trash and, like, dig it up. I remember seeing you. You're like, I'm so ready to show everyone what I can do with, like, digging and stuff, and then you can barely dig anything, and it's sort of like, You know, it's unfortunate because that's not really like a good metric of a leader either, like how much you can haul or anything. But
No, I got stuck for a good section of time as well with the square shovel,
yeah,
trying to dig a hole that calls for a spade. To be honest with you, square shovel for me. I used to work at a zoo, and with animals and stuff. So square shovel for me is poop shovel.
yeah,
Spade is hole shovel. So it's. I got very frustrated about that, and I felt that the situation was unfair. And instead of just being proactive and responsible and mature like a leader should, and just taking a spade,
yeah.
I threw a tantrum and went under a wagon. So I mean, yeah, these are the mistakes we make when we're children. We learn.
Right, right. When it came down to like the next election, you know, you don't want like any part in like getting elected again. Was there maybe like any other reasons that we didn't get to see, like why you did not want to be reelected?
Pretty no. There was pretty much it. They covered that pretty well in the show. And we hear just now. There was almost every decision that I made kind of ended up being met with not necessarily that level of dislike and disagreement, but they just didn't tend to be popular. And that was fine. I felt like I was making pretty decent decisions, but at the end of the day, if I was still gonna like campaign and then keep trying to make the decent decisions that I made and then have people vote for me but then hate me the whole time I was there, like that just sucked. It was making the experience less enjoyable for me, and we only had, it was a long period of time, but it was only a finite experience, and I wanted to have fun with it while I was there. So, I did end up just basically asking to be voted off.
Right. Something that is pretty interesting about that election was that a lot of people that I've like interviewed before allege that it wasn't just DK that ran by himself, but Jared also ran in that election, but we just didn't get to see it. Is that something that you remember at all?
I would have to ask him about that. I honestly, because I wasn't campaigning, I didn't care at the time. I just knew that I didn't want it. I was going to vote for whoever I thought should have it, and it wasn't going to be me. I was not going to vote for myself. So I don't remember a ton of campaigning from Jared, but that I might have just been still kind of busy being wrapped up in trying to get out of all of the council. I'll ask him about that, because now I'm curious.
Yeah, me too. Speaking of Jared, was there any like cool like off-camera moments that you had with him? Because you told me you and him were like pretty close. Was there anything that happened that we didn't get to see on camera that was like interesting?
So they were actually really, really good about catching like most of the stuff that an audience would want to see on camera, as far as like anything big or exciting that happened, because we were mic'd all the time. So if they heard, and they were like bloodhounds, so if they heard, they heard everything you were talking about. So if they heard you talking about interesting thing X, Y, or Z, they would be there within the cameras would be there within 30 seconds. You know what I mean? Not 30 seconds, but like a minute or two. It was a decent sized town. It took you a minute to get across the town, but there was just there was a lot of like fun, like you're a kid, you're just bonding in the middle of the desert kind of stuff. Like we found like this giant cow skull thing that we ended up bringing back to town. That was exciting. Jared, I forget, I think they might have actually covered this in the show, but Jared did this cool thing where he made these just memorabilia. You could buy the magnifying glasses in the dry goods store, in the general store, and he would take just these little bits of like driftwood or little pieces that had fallen off of the buildings and then burn into them kidney, like with a magnifying glass,
the necklaces.
Yeah, the necklaces and stuff. I didn't get a necklace. I actually got just like a little block because I didn't really wear necklaces at the time too much. So I wanted a little. But yeah, they were just the Kid Nation, the date. You know, they were a piece of the land from that area. You know,
That's cool.
It was yeah, it was exciting. Then you know there's every now and then, like, you know, if you needed to blow off some steam, we kept finding crowbars. I don't know. So, and the poor, to be like, these poor people that work for CBS, right? The poor production crew just desperately trying to keep us all safe while still keeping things authentic, you know? And you're in the middle of this set there, or it's, from what I understand, it was, we were originally supposed to be at a ghost town in Nevada, right? This ended up being, it was like a set for old spaghetti westerns. Yeah. And they picked this because apparently the actors back in the day for these westerns tended to be shorter. So they built the set to scale for shorter actors. Oh. So they figured it would look good if the kids were in this thing, you know, like it'll make shots not be so weird. That was the explanation I heard, or I got explained to me. I don't know if that's actually like true, but that was what I heard. So anyways, we kept finding, we'd find like bullets, and then we kept finding the spent bullets, you know, nothing dangerous. But we kept finding these crowbars, and there were just broken pieces of set material sometimes behind, or like dressers and stuff that they needed to clear out from rooms. And so, you know, if you get really upset and you just got to blow off some steam, you take a crowbar and you go behind one of the like places and just bash up stuff. And the crew people would just disappear the crowbars. Like if you ever left anything anywhere, it was just gone because, my God, the kids just need to stop walking around with crowbars all the time.
Right.
But it was pretty funny. It was funny. There were not many of kids with them, but I did seem to keep finding crowbars.
Oh, okay.
That was kind of my thing, I guess.
That's fun. Definitely one interesting thing that we do get to see is, like, because you mentioned that you were on a set, there's this one part where you and the council go off to, like, a mine and such.
Yeah, the turquoise mine.
Yeah, was that, like, close to set? Like, would kids just stumble upon it, or
no? So the location, I'm pretty sure we all had to sign non-disclosure contracts, but I'm pretty sure those have been expired for quite a long time now.
Yeah.
So the set location was broken up into a few different places. We had most of the actual filming took place on location, so on Bonanza City, which was where we had the saloon, and, you know, it was the Four Corners area. We actually stayed there, so that's where we lived for the 40 days. Most of our, like, the camera guys and the set crew, they went to another space which was outside of where we would easily be able to, like, walk to quickly, which was called Base Camp, and that was all like trailers and tents, and that was production area. We didn't go there. There was most of the areas where they did cold interviews, so anything that looks like it was maybe done on a green screen or just had like a background that didn't show any buildings or anything, that was usually done in a place called B-Town, which was the same place that we filmed the town hall meetings. Okay. So where that big barn was. That was actually the barn, if I'm not mistaken, from The Astronaut Farmer. That we were in the same building, like the movie. So yeah, so the mine was another location that was not super close. I think it was probably 15 minutes maybe out from where we were. It wasn't crazy far, but we were in, like, on a plateau desert area. Yeah. So for us to look out and we couldn't see any of the other locations from Bonanza. So we didn't really, and we were always taken there by van, so we wouldn't know how to get there. You know what I mean? If we were to just walk.
So
they didn't want to leave it.
Right. So the mine, you guys took a van there, just you and the other council members? Okay. And when you guys, like, discovered the treasure, did you guys keep any of it for yourselves, or was it all used to buy, like, the toys and stuff?
No, we weren't. We didn't. We're not corrupt leaders. Come on now. We might have been divisive in our politics, all right, but we were honest. We
Okay.
no, we didn't keep any of it. It was that was legitimately for the town.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. That's good. One
We did
thing.
keep some turquoise. A
Oh,
couple of us
some
picked up like
turquoise.
little pieces of turquoise and stuff. That was actually a turquoise mine. That wasn't a set or anything. That was like an actual thing. Yeah.
Oh
So
wow.
some of us did grab some smaller pieces of turquoise. I have some somewhere. I forget where they are.
Oh
Yeah.
wow. That's really huge. That's cool.
Yeah. It was pretty neat. It was pretty neat.
Yeah. I've heard from other cast members that, sometimes you kids like to poke jabs at like either like crew members or hosts. And I heard you're actually one of the guys, who had a few roasts on like Jonathan Karsh like back in the bunk and stuff. Is that something that you remember at all?
I so well. Yeah, I mean, you poke a little bit of.
Yeah.
We liked all the guys, to be fair. So everybody that we were there with, the crew, they were all super nice. Like I don't think I can think of a single person that we had to work with there who was unpleasant to work with. They were all very nice, very responsible, very conscientious of the fact that like we're a bunch of kids, and as much as we're tough and independent kids, we're probably a little out of our depth.
Yeah.
Like they were all very very cool while still trying to get good footage. But Jonathan, so we didn't at the time. We didn't know how much creative involvement Jonathan actually had in anything. At least I was under the impression that he was just the host, which I've gotten kind of mixed information on going forward. But at the time, I would rib, but not in a mean-spirited way. The only thing,
Yeah.
so the thing that did happen once, Jonathan didn't visit town a lot. When he came to town, it was to do a shoot. It was to, for him to be like, okay, guys, let's go to the town hall meeting, or okay, this is your challenge for today. You district up,
Yeah.
it was always something big that meant we were probably going to get wet or messy or like just something crazy was going to happen. It was never going to be a normal day. So at one point he did. He just kind of came to town, and we didn't know why. We were a little suspicious of it. But he was a really nice guy, so we all wanted to just kind of hang out around him. But we ended up sort of ribbing him a lot, and as a group, almost in. Again, I feel a little bit bad for this. So almost like in the way that a class, when they get really into it, does the substitute teacher, and is just kind of like, oh, don't be mean,
Right.
We basically ended up telling him like, dude, whenever you're kind of the bearer of bad news. Like, it's not that we don't like you, but you don't. When you come to town, bad things happen. Like we don't.
Right.
So and he genuinely seemed to take that to heart, and I'll remember this forever. And I felt a little bit bad about that. Yeah. So that might have been something that was being referenced there, maybe. So
Oh
there was a
wow.
group of us. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
How
a
did
very nice guy. He was a very nice guy.
Right, that's good. Out of you, Mike, and DK, how do you guys like rank each other? Like, how do you rank you guys as like leaders from like best to worst?
Uh, hmm. I think that really depends on who you ask. Like for me, I feel like I did well, but like I said, people didn't approve of my decisions in general, so I couldn't have done that well. You know what I
Uh
mean?
huh.
Mike, I feel like Mike had a hard go of it. He was the first one. He kind of just got dropped cold into like take care, like essentially babysit a bunch of children. DK had the longest time to be prepared, and was the oldest of us, but definitely also maybe had a period of time where we were all a little bit more. The third council, I feel like the rest of the town was very established. At that point, we'd been there for a while, so we kind of, not to say that we were self-sufficient, like we still needed our structure, we still needed our hierarchy, and needed to have council members letting us know, like we needed the council still. But I think maybe some of the day-to-day was a little bit less touch and go.
Yeah.
DK, I think, was probably the most welcoming council member, I guess, like the most approachable. probably. I wanted to be, but I that's not in my nature, I guess. And Mike was also, you know, I think Mike tried his best. So I'll take the bullet and I'll put myself down at number 3 there, I guess. So.
Oh wow. Okay. For, you know, you guys had like a lot of showdowns. Were you overall like a fan of the showdowns, or?
Yeah, yes. I liked most of them a ton. A lot of them were really, really fun. A couple of them, I'm not really into gross stuff.
Okay.
So like, yeah. So there were a couple. There's one that I keep having to like watch the episode and remind myself, or not even, like just look up that part of it to remind myself, like, yeah, that happened to me, because my brain keeps being like, nope, that must have been Mike or DK. That you couldn't have been the council member for that one. No. And it's the gum challenge, right? So I don't like spit. I have an issue with spit. When people spit, I don't like it. It's fine. Like, I don't, you know, that's, people can do that, but I get a little gaggy. That's all. And the challenge was literally to do like a paint by numbers by taking your district's chewed up spit gum and sticking it to a board with your hands. so this for me was like I said, I have to keep reminding myself that, nope, you did that, because I think about it and I immediately am just like, no, I'd never be able to do that. I'd throw up. I couldn't do it. No, it did. You do stuff in the moment, you know. Yeah, that one was a little weird. The only other one that I really had trouble with was there was a porks and beans challenge.
Right.
At the time, it was very fun. I dove right in. The only thing that wasn't fun is that the pigs when they were eating the beans, so right. they were nice. They were pigs. They were fine. They weren't giving us trouble too much or anything. But they were eating the beans and they were shitting in the beans like a lot. Right. You don't see it too much, but you get at this, you know, you get this. There's like this smell that's forever burned into my brain of just this mixture of pigs and beans and pig feces and beans, and you're diving into this, you know. So there's the best part, right, is that after the showdowns, we got to shower. So we actually got taken and we got 5-minute showers in a trailer that had like a water tank on it. It was 5 minutes because we were in the middle of the desert. There wasn't a lot of water, so it was very, very limited. I had long hair, like more than I have right now back then, and it was caked in beans. So I had 5 minutes and like Suave shampoo to try to get the, you know, beans and pig poo out of my hair. So it never really came out for the 40 days. So that was, you know, so I don't eat really beans
that's
anymore.
Yeah.
But the rest of the showdowns pretty much were a lot of fun. There was a piñata one that, of course, you know, that's just tons of fun.
That's good. Yeah, actually, speaking on those 2 challenges that you mentioned, the gumball challenge, I heard that the guy who designed the gumball challenge is actually doing like crazy stuff now. He's like Gordon Ramsay's right-hand man on MasterChef.
Is that real?
Real, yeah.
Wow, I'm going to have to look into that, because I might have to send him a very angry letter. And also ask for, hey, you know, I'll send him an angry letter. In trade, I'll forgive him for a reservation at Gordon Ramsay's restaurant.
Right. Maybe it'll work, maybe. Another thing with the pork and beans challenge, you know, I don't think the people designing it had the best idea about what happened. Like, they got this huge vat out, and then they had the pigs in first, and I don't think they realized it, but just the second beans came in, the pigs started eating it, like, right away, and, I mean, the shit just came in, like, a second later, you know?
Yeah.
So I heard they actually got, like, these these pool cleaner nets, and they actually scooped out plenty of shit before you guys even got to see it. So it could have been a lot worse.
I vaguely remember hearing something about that at the time. It might have even just been that, like, we ended up having to wait, because they would start us off usually at a location that was just a little ways away from the showdown, so that we could run in so that they could get a boom shot of us running in, you know. And that sounds really familiar. I think we might have just had to wait like an extra long time, and we were just like, "What the hell's going on?" And they're like, "Yeah, we didn't think this through, but go for it." Yeah, I'm sure it could have been worse. Yeah, there was enough that you noticed, but it was enough that you didn't notice as much on TV when you watch it back.
Right.
I mean, hey, it's best laid plans, right? It looks good on TV. I mean,
yeah. When you're watching on TV, it really just only looks like beans. So
yeah.
Did you ever feel like at any point during the show, like you deserved a gold star, or were there any actions that you did that thought maybe you're worthy of it?
Maybe, but not more than other people. So I guess not really. Like, I was definitely not by any extent like the laziest guy. I tried to do good. I tried to work hard. I tried to make sure that we were, always in a good spot. But there were other people that like Nathan, for example. He was, like I said, he was just nonstop, and there were other people who, when they decided that they were going to go for the star, they just busted ass. And for me, it was never about the money, we all got like a flat payment from it, that was not particularly high, but like, I was just excited to be there, and oh my god, I also get paid. Cool, I really, the gold stars, like, I wanted to hold one, and then I forget who, I think Sophia like let me hold hers, and I was like, okay, cool, this is cool, I'm good.
That's good.
So I think that the people who deserved them the most got them, and that includes Sophia getting the 2. She absolutely deserved it.
That's great. Speaking of which, the flat payment, if I recall correctly, it was $5,000, but also Tom Foreman sent all of you kids Wii's as well, right?
Yes, he did. I actually still have it.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, hey, it's collectible, man.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that was like the year that it was like impossible to get Wii's as well, like 2008 or something, right? Like
it was. That was before everybody like, had one or soured on it. Yeah, that was the year where the Wii was the biggest thing. I remember I got it in the mail, and that we didn't know that we were getting. We knew that we were getting the flat payment, and we knew that we were getting a gift, but we didn't know what the gift was. And we got it, and I had a friend over at the time, and we opened it, and we like just melted our brains. We just freaked out about it. It was fantastic. It definitely like made the day.
Yeah, I'd have to imagine. I mean, the Wii was a monster in 08, 09,
Yeah, dude. Some of the first like really good mocap, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. If you had the option to, would you ever like switch districts, like you yourself?
No, I don't think so. I think I was right where I should have been. I mean, Green District seemed like they overall just always had the best chemistry. Everybody seemed to just get along really well on Green. They also couldn't win a showdown to save their lives. Sorry, guys, but but they just seemed to genuinely just have like a really, really good spirit to them. Blue District, they were super, super motivated. They were actually like kind of monsters in showdowns, actually. But they had, and they were a very tight-knit group too, Yellow, I don't think you could have paid me to be on Yellow. Yeah, I think I ended up where I belonged. I liked Red District, and I was very happy to be able to work with the guys and girls that I got to work with there.
That's great. Who would you say that you were close with on the show?
Jared was definitely the closest person, probably on and off the show. Definitely off the show, but probably on as well. I was close with Mike. It was hard not it was hard not to be close with anybody. You just had people that you like knew well and you liked, and you knew well and you didn't like.
Yeah.
There were a few people that I just genuinely never got to know well, because the town was a little bit bigger than maybe it seems, but Nathan, actually, we hung out with a good amount too once we had him on the team. We didn't. I don't know how to put it. We didn't have that much downtime. You know what I mean? So like there was until we got the arcade, I guess, and then we'd all kind of pal around in the arcade, but we were all working pretty hard and trying to trying to stay busy.
Right. And when you say that you were pretty close with Jared, there is kind of one iconic scene with Jared where it's like the first day where you guys are all there, and he tells Mike, today has been the worst day in 3 years. Do you have any idea what happened to him 3 years ago?
I look, and I saw this on the JonTron thing too. I was not with him when that happened. So like right. I wasn't there to see that quote happen. We weren't close at that beginning of the show. So like we didn't know each other before or anything. It took some time to know people, I haven't asked him even now, to be honest. And I did. I was talking to him a little while after the JonTron show interview came out, and I sent it to him, and I thought about asking, and I just didn't ask. And maybe I will at some point, but I don't know, man. Some people it's good to just let people have their privacy sometimes. Like if that was
right, definitely. So speaking of like Jared and how you said like you still kept in touch with him. Is there anyone else that you keep in touch with from the show after like it ended?
Right after it ended, there was more contact. We all had each other, or like not we all, but like a lot of us had exchanged phone numbers or some sort of other than like Facebook or email contact information where it was a little bit more of a direct line. So a lot of us kept in contact afterwards. I know I talked to Mike a few times. I talked to DK a couple times. But as time passed, either people's contact information changed and Facebook wasn't quite as prevalent at the time. And I definitely wasn't on it. As much. So other than Jared, he's really the only long-term contact other than Facebook. Like I occasionally see people's activity on Facebook because I'm friends with a whole bunch of the Kid Nation crew now on right. Facebook, but I don't really reach out or conversate too much.
Okay. Has the show impacted you like in any way after it ended?
I mean, other than occasionally something like this occurring, yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of applicable lessons that you learn. Like, you learn a lot about yourself when you're able to be put in a space to experience non-standard things. You know what I mean? Like, right. we experience our day-to-day lives over and over and over again, and that's good because it gets us into healthy routines and it lets us establish a level of normalcy that we can like grasp onto and make sure that our basis of reality is founded in something that we can see every day, but sometimes it's good to break from that cycle to have something that might almost be considered just an extreme activity, an extreme moment, right. Something that pushes you to see things in a way, do things in a way, and especially if it's caught on camera and you get to like you have the benefit of the hindsight being 2020 and just watch it over and over again and see what you did, see why you did it, maybe think about it, not obsess, but understand. Like for me, like understanding like why am I throwing a tantrum under a wagon instead of doing something more productive, and then you make something better out of that. Right. So I don't know necessarily that there's an easy thing that I can just point and say like, well, Kid Nation taught me this and now I do this, but there's definitely a lot of holistically applicable life lessons that are instilled, especially a lot younger,
Right. That's good. How did your parents feel about the show? Like, maybe even like before you even went on versus like after the show ended. Did they have any like feelings when they watched it?
They didn't like how many cavities I came back with. That upset them.
Wow.
Look, it was hard, man. We didn't have like running water. Like we literally toothbrush and dental hygiene were a Showdown reward for us. Yeah. You know what I mean? So right. It was tough. We apparently stank when we came back. That was a thing that we had like this like Bonanza City funk that was really hard to get off of us,
Yeah.
apparently. We couldn't smell it, but other people could. So they loved the idea initially. I'm sure they were happy to be rid of me because I was homeschooled at the time. So it was nonstop this guy. So I'm sure they were nice. We're happy to have a little bit of a break there. They were very supportive, but we didn't talk to them while we were there. The only people who talked to their parents were people who got gold stars. So I didn't find out any of this until later. And then it's their lives didn't change, mine did. So we watched the show and they were like, "Cool, you did a thing. We're really proud of you."
Nice. When you mentioned that you came back with all those cavities, what immediately came to my mind was I'm pretty sure you went pretty hard during the Bonanza raid. Where you guys.
Oh my god, dude! I was a monster. I think I took a whole a giant. I don't think jar is even the right word. I'm sure there's some sort of barrel-sized jar. I'm sure there's some sort of fancy word for that. If I recall, they were I think they were turtles or those peanut caramel clusters covered in chocolate. They were so good. They were so good. We had some really, really good candy in the store.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think I took the whole thing. Wow. Yeah, we got a little. That got out of hand. That was not good.
That actual premise of that was okay, this is our last day in here, let's raid? Because I've also heard from some people, the producers were okay, this is your last day here, just take what you guys want.
They told us we could have what we wanted, yeah. So, because, if you figure a lot of this stuff, there's not much use to repurposing some of it, what's the production staff? I'm sure they could just put it in a warehouse somewhere, but that probably costs more to store, So what are they going to do with a giant jar full of gumballs? So basically, it was communicated that we don't have to take anything, but that the less there is for the breakdown crew to take care of. So we were welcome to take anything that we felt we could get on the plane, and some of us took things that we were not able to get on the plane. So
were you able to get the turtles on the plane?
No, unfortunately. Well, some of them. So not the jar. I couldn't get the huge jar. I got a good number of keepsakes. I got some. I got a couple of a couple of dusters. I got a pair of long johns that I had grabbed. Some magic tricks. We got to keep our sleeping bags from the show, which was awesome because those sleeping bags were freaking really, really high. Actually, I still have it. It's in my car in case I ever break down. It's they were -30 sleeping bags that are legit. You will not freeze. And they realized that they needed to get us those because we didn't have those for the first couple of nights, and it snowed. And they gave us these tiny little bedrolls and very, very thin blankets. There was a little bit of learning curve at the beginning of the show, So.
Right. That's cool that you kept all the stuff. Was there anything else in particular that you still have as a keepsake from the show?
Still have. I do still have the little wooden block that Jared burned. Okay. I have a couple of bullets. I have a couple of buffalo nickels somewhere.
Wow.
I had taken. We had these giant psychedelic jawbreakers, and I had taken a bunch of those because I figured they don't go bad. It turns out they do after a really long time. Right. If any moisture gets to them, they do end up going bad, unfortunately. But yeah, so that's mostly it. The clothing, and then the clothing, the sleeping bag, some odds and ends. Yeah, mostly all that stuff.
Gotcha. What was your overall experience on the show, and is it something that you would do again in adult form?
Oh, I would. Yeah, hey, if I would go back and do the show again if I was a kid. I would absolutely do something the similar format or of some of. I honestly, I was not a fan of reality TV going onto the show at all. I didn't watch a lot of TV. Period. I was like an outdoors kid kind of thing, but going through the experience and working with everybody, especially one where it is much more real than a lot of the reality shows get the rap for being. Like we didn't go to hotels at the end of the night. We didn't have like some like nice dinners prepared for us. Like we slept on location. Like we lived there. Like it was hot, it was cold, it was hard. It felt very real. And I feel like we, as much as maybe it wasn't exactly what we were initially expecting going in, I feel like we got a lot of compelling footage, and got to have some interesting experiences and show to a degree that kids are maybe a little bit more competent than than they get credit for. But
right, definitely. Is there any like experiences that like we didn't touch on this interview that you'd like to mention or anything?
Trying to think if there's any like really, really good stories. I think that's mostly it, man. We had a really good, the only other really good Showdown story, which was just another nasty cleanup, but this one was really fun, was the pie showdown. Because how many times do you have the opportunity to just have like a real all-out pie fight with your friends, right? So after we finished the actual showdown, we just went crazy with the pies, and Jared and I actually ended up essentially having a second skin made entirely out of pie, dry pie. That we had to get rid of. That was a lot of fun. That was a lot of interesting.
That is fun. I don't know if it'd be fun for me. I don't know. I feel like I'd get some sort of weird type of feeling with all that.
It felt weird. Yeah, it felt weird.
Okay.
But it's fun at the time, because it's, especially you think about how it's gonna look on TV, and you're like, oh, this would be great, and then you're covered in pie, and then you're like, okay, this is not the most comfortable thing ever.
Right. If I could just get like your thoughts on like a little bit some of the more controversial pioneers, such as like Greg or Taylor, especially like your feelings when you were a pioneer. Like, how do you feel about them, especially as leaders?
Taylor was exactly the way. Look, I'm not going to sit here and like talk nasty about anybody, Taylor, to her credit, portrayed herself exactly as herself. The way she was on camera was the way she was with people, at least in my experience. And frankly, whether I disagree with you or not, if you are honest and honestly yourself, then more power to you. I don't have to agree with you. So she's a very strong-willed, strong-minded individual, and I would not want to get in her way. Greg is a very, he started off very rough to deal with. He was one of the older guys, him and Blaine. It was tough for the older guys having to like be in this situation of kind of perceived pressure on them, with all these younger kids. They're almost, even with the town council, they almost end up being put in a position where their testosterone's telling them to be the de facto leader, and as time went on, that seemed to lessen a little bit, like as he and Blaine ended up developing like actual like talking to people and just like being people with people. They actually ended up being some of the like hardest working guys in the town. I mean, it helps that they were big as well, but they definitely got portrayed kind of negatively, maybe more than they ended up deserving. Like at any given time, they at any given time where they were shown being maybe a little bit rowdy, a little bit rough, that was true, that was accurate, but they definitely ended up just being really good guys.
Okay, awesome. And what are you up to now?
Just working, man. I work at a deli in Massachusetts with my girlfriend. It's gas station in Delhi for a small town. I work with a lot of just familiar faces from the small town. You know, a lot of regulars. I make food. Nothing crazy fancy, but I like it. I like getting to be a part of people's day. You know.
Awesome, that's great. Well, Guylan, thanks a lot for coming on and your time for this interview. Definitely, all of us really, really appreciate it, and your insights have been super helpful towards us.
Thank you very much, man. Do me a favor, just send me a link to this one. It's all posted.
Oh yeah, dude, I'd love to. Yeah, definitely. Appreciate it again, Guylan, and hope you're staying safe in this quarantine period, and hope things continue to go well for you and your girlfriend and everyone.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me on, man.
Yeah, definitely. Take care, Guylan.
Have a good one.
Yep.